What's going on, Imperials? It's Emperor Cubone here. Out of all 18 Pokemon types, there are many unique combinations of monsters that make for some pretty outstanding results. But we still have a fair amount of type mixtures that have yet to be created in the games, but could definitely make for some quality additions in the world of Pokemon. So, here are what I believe to be the top 6 best unused type combinations in Pokemon. Number 6. Dragon and Bug. Okay, look, this isn't even a personal favorite of mine, but we've had some pretty strong candidates at this point, and it's ludicrous that we still don't have it yet. Bug is weak to fire, rock, and flying, and resists grass, ground, and fighting. Dragon is weak to dragon, ice, and fairy, and is resistant to grass, fire, water, and electric. So pairing these two types together nullifies the fire weakness, bringing it to neutral status, while bringing a nice 4 times grass resistance to the table. Pairing Bug with the dragon type would help to give it a buff, and maybe some legitimacy in the eyes of many who, as of right now, still only view the Bug type as kind of a joke. It's not like it would be the regional Bug or anything, and I imagine that you could even make a pretty decent legendary with this type combination. Pairing what is perceived to be one of the strongest types with what is perceived to be one of the weakest could definitely make for something with an interesting outcome. Number 5. Ground and Fairy. Fairy is still relatively new, so there's still a lot of potential pairings left to go. Ground is weak to grass, dark, fighting, and bug, but is completely immune to dragon attacks. These two types together nullifies the poison weakness and keeps both the immunities to dragon and electric. This pairing I think would be especially nice because 1, I love the ground type, and 2, it could cover all sorts of different potential designs. I could very easily see this combining to give life to an armadillo-like Pokemon. Or it could be some kind of magical forest creature. Ground implies getting down and dirty, which is something a fairy would largely avoid, so it'd be nice to see them loosen up a bit. Plus, this combination gives double immunities to the powerhouses of Dragon and Electric. So, whatever the end result would be, we can be sure that it would destroy Zekrom. Number 4. Normal and Rock. Truthfully, this may not be one of the coolest combinations out there, but there's a couple of reasons for it. Normal is weak to fighting, and resists absolutely nothing. But it is immune to Ghost. Rock is weak to water, grass, ground, steel, and fighting. Why is this called the defensive type again? Anyway, it resists flying, fire, poison, and normal itself. So, combining these two types makes for a terrible 4 times fighting weakness. But it does give the normal type a lot of new resistances that it wouldn't have, and gives the rock type an immunity to Ghost. Normal seems to be one of the most underrepresented types around, and being combined with others. I understand the reasoning for that. It's hard to be plain and be something else, but only in more recent generations have they started adding more normal into the mix. Secondly, the real reason I want this type is because of fossil Pokemon. It's perfect! I would personally want to see it as a giant sloth Pokemon, but you could pick any number of extinct mammals to make it work. What better way could there be to introduce this unused combination than to add it to all the other fossils? Number 3. Poison and Steel. I always love putting types together that are at odds with one another, especially if one has an immunity to the other. It just seems strange and usually leads to an interesting result. That's why I'm fascinated with the idea of a Poison-Steel type. Poison is weak to ground and psychic, and it resists grass, bug, poison, fairy, and fighting. Steel is weak to ground, fire, and fighting, and Steel resists normal, grass, rock, flying, psychic, steel, bug, dragon, ice, and fairy, and is completely immune to poison. So the immunity removes the need to resist poison, but the fighting resist brings it up to neutral status. The same is true for Steel's resistance to Psychic cancelling out. This also supplies a 4 times resistance to Grass, Bug, and Fairy, leaving only a weakness to Fire and a crippling 4 times weakness to Ground. Except for corrosion, poison has absolutely no effect on steel types. So I'd like to see how one would behave once it was given such poison. Would it even care? Its poison could very well be the most powerful in existence, since it wouldn't even have to worry about its own safety. There are still some other opposite combos out there to cover, but before that, I want to see just how they would reconcile these two opposing types. Number 2. Electric and Dark. The thing about this one is that it seems like we already have it. There are some Pokemon that maybe could pull off the Electric and Dark combination, but none of them were given the go-ahead. Electric is weak to only the ground type, and Electric resists Electric, Flying, and Steel. Dark is weak to Bug, Fighting, and... The most notable distinctions are that it resists both of its own types and has the Psychic immunity. But really, this seems like a no-brainer. Dark, ominous storm clouds are a pretty common occurrence in the world, often heralding lightning and thunder as a result, so a Pokemon based on this seems long overdue. Plus, it would add to the much-needed variety on the rather stale pool of type diversity when it comes to Electric. So, if you ask me, Electric Dark is one that we should have gotten before now, but let's just hope that we get it soon. Number 1. Grass and Fire. This one is obvious. Not only is it another pair of opposing typings that could result in a unique outcome, but it's the only combination not formed out of the starting types. It has been ingrained in us early on to know the dynamics between fire, water, and grass. So it was really cool when they made their first water-grass type to shake things up. But then we had to wait 3 whole generations before they'd try their hand at a water-fire type. What, can we not get the next one until Generation 9? Fire is weak to ground, rock, and water, and resists grass, fire, ice, steel, bug, and fairy. Grass is weak to fire, poison, ice, bug, and flying, and resists electric, water, grass, and ground. Looking at those, we can remove ground and water as weaknesses from the fire side, and we can cancel out the weaknesses to fire, bug, and ice, leaving only rock, flying, and poison as potential problems, with a nice 4 times grass resistance. It seems, when combined, the starter types really do cancel out a lot of each other's weaknesses. Arguably, there's already been opportunities for this combination, it's just nobody seems to want to pull the trigger. It doesn't have to be good in battle, or even well-designed, really. I would prefer that it were, obviously, but at this point, I really just kind of feel like we're owed something to finish out the mashups of all of the starter types. So now, what would happen if they all battled each other? So, those are the Pokemon type combinations I'd most like to see. Which unused combinations would you like to see? Let me know down in the comments. Also be sure to leave a like, share this video, and subscribe so that you too can become an Imperial today. And we'll see you around next time!